Hello and welcome to the software topic. We have gone and had a look at the hardware topic, so we're familiar with lots of components found within a computer. And as you will obviously know, that hardware is basically anything that you can touch. The other half to a computer is the software side, and the software is basically anything that you can copy. Now, software comes in different types, and what we have behind me are those types. So we have software which is programming. That's the running of the actual computer itself, and the operating system would fall under that category. Application software is software which we're probably most familiar with. Those would be things like Word and Excel, Photoshop, and their job is to do a particular task. The third family of software is utility. Now, utility software does the job of maintaining the computer at its optimal rate. So it's making sure that there are no viruses, that memory is where it should be, that it's not running slowly. And so the type of utility software would be, say, antivirus or defragmentation software, which we'll look at a later date. In this video, I want to look at and concentrate on that of the operating system. Now, as an operating system, it's probably a good idea to start off with some analogy. Here we have our annual Perth show, which is always a great event. It's a big event. Lots and lots of people turn up, lots and lots of amusements and events going on. It takes an awful lot to organise. So, for example, we've got tickets to think about. That big fireworks display at the end of the evening. All the showground events that carry on. The various farming competitions. All that catering. All those amusements. All that security. These are lots and lots of different aspects in order to be able to make the Perth show a great success. In order for all of this to occur, at the end of the day, there needs to be an events organizer. Somebody has to pull all of this together. Now, they'll get plenty of help, but there has to be somebody who is going to pull it all together to make it happen. The events organizer will have to think about coordinating lots of resources, lots of people, in order to be able to make something happen. They're going to probably be the point of contact. So all of the various elements of the Perth show, they have somebody whom they can talk to, point of contact. The events organizer and the committee they probably run will decide the allocation of money and resources which go to the various parts of the show. During the actual running of the Perth show, the event organizer will then start to think about making sure that everything runs smoothly. And they would do that by monitoring all the various things that are going on in that location, the Perth show, and where issues arise or where problems arise, there would be troubleshooting going on in order to deal with any outstanding issues. The event organizer would not be someone who would necessarily be front and centre, say on the stage or wherever, but someone who sits in the background making sure that the whole show goes as planned. Without an event organizer, there would be no Perth show. So the event organizer is an essential person in order to have the running of this show. The same applies for that of the operating system. The operating system is not something that we readily see, but it sits in the background behind all the application software that we so readily use. And yet without the operating system, our computer would be dead. We could not actually use our computer. So let's see what the operating system does. So here is a definition that you're going to need to know. Let's have a look at it. The operating system is the core software that allows a computer to run as a useful device. It manages the hardware, the user interface, and all the other software on the computer. The most critical information in the operating system is called the kernel. So, essentially, what we have as an operating system is that it is a link. It is a connection between us, the user, and what we want the computer to actually go and do. Without the operating system, there can be no connection, there can be no work done by the computer, and the computer would be dead. The most essential part of an operating system is that of the kernel. And as you would have looked at in the boot process of in your hardware topic, it is the kernel which is loaded into the RAM during the whole boot process. So let's just have a look now at what are some of the advantages of having an operating system. The first really big advantage for having an operating system can be shown in this diagram here. What we have a user wanting to play a particular game, Call of Duty for the sake of argument. Now, we've got the same piece of software being used, but it's going to be played on two different computers. I'm saying an Asus one and a Dell one. Now, the hardware on the Asus, its configuration, there are going to be differences between the Asus computer hardware and the Dell one. What happens is the person up here, he wants to play his game. The operating system will talk to, in this case, the application software, this game. Where that connection takes place, that is called an interface. As a result, the operating system is able to glean from the software what requirements are needed in order to make that particular software run and be displayed on a computer. The operating system will go and talk to the various hardware components in order to be able to make sure that that software can be played. The same operating system, Windows, can talk to the software on this computer, but this computer has different type of specification. That doesn't matter because, again, the Windows is able to talk to the software and the Windows operating system is able to go and communicate with this hardware in order to be able to display that game on this computer as well. The advantage is really for the programmer. The programmer does not have to create two different types of the same game in order to be able to run on different types of computers, or it doesn't have to necessarily produce different language. But what can happen is that the operating system is able to find out what the requirements are and then go to the hardware in order to be able to play that particular game. A second advantage for operating systems is that of layering. On this one here, we see that the application layer is independent of the operating system. The operating system is independent of the hardware. However, if the application wants to run, it needs to be able to access the hardware. The only way it can do that is through the operating system. Hence, there still needs to be an interface, a connection between these three areas. Because they are independent, what can happen is that an application can change its requirements and the operating system can deal with it. Or you can take an operating system out and put a new one in. It's not going to affect these others here. And similarly with the hardware, if you take out some low-spec RAM and put in some greater one, or put in a higher-spec CPU, then the operating system can still read the hardware and the application can run. So the whole idea of having an operating system is that it keeps all these three things separate, and there is greater flexibility if you want to upgrade or to change anything. So what are some of the jobs of the operating system? Let's have a look at that. Here are the main jobs of an operating system. Now, you will simply need to know the jobs of the operating system, but since we're here, I'll just give a little bit more of an explanation. And the explanation will be more necessary when you do computer science in year 12. But essentially, scheduling is making sure that the operating system keeps the CPU busy, and as busy at a steady rate. So the processing of the CPU shouldn't fluctuate, and in order to be able to do that, the operating system has to decide, or has to prioritize, what tasks are done before something else, as well as being able to portion out a certain amount of time, otherwise known as slices, for each application or processing to be done. But scheduling is essentially deciding what jobs need to be done. It's all about prioritizing. Managing concurrency is ensuring that if lots of applications are working to create an end result, then that end result is going to be correct. In the past, when applications were sharing memory and processing and all the rest of it, there was a danger that the actual answer could become corrupted. Managing concurrency ensures that where applications are sharing resources, the final answer is going to be a correct one. Managing devices, in this case, just as with software, peripherals, that's anything that is connected to a computer, such as printers, mouse, keyboard, etc., has the necessary memory and the necessary processing power in order to be able to function. File systems, well, the operating system is going to need to open and close and save files, as well as know where all that data is stored. And so that would be a function of our operating system. Probably the one we see most in connection with what an operating system has to do is that user interface. So when we turn that computer on, we're going to be needing to click on buttons, drop down menus, and that information is found on our desktop. So the operating system is the one that generates the desktop. So we've come to the end of the software topic. Let's just do a very quick recap as to what you really need to make sure you know. Okay, so it's all there on that whiteboard. So the definition, just to remind you, the operating system is the core software that allows a computer to run as a useful device. It manages the hardware, user interface, and all the other software on a computer. In short, the operating system is a bridge between a user and the computer. And the most essential part of the operating system is called the kernel. Big advantages for an operating system? Well, the operating system acts as a platform for any application. So the programmer can create an application and not have to worry what type of hardware that application is going to run on. The operating system does all the heavy lifting. So the operating system talks to the application, and then the operating system goes and gets and uses the hardware on that computer. The second advantage is that of layering. The fact is that the application layer, the application, the operating system, the hardware, they're all independent and yet they have interfaces. They're connected so they can talk to each other. If an application changes or is upgraded, or the operating system changes, or the hardware components again are upgraded, it's not going to affect the other two areas because they are independent. Finally, the jobs that the operating system does are quite varied and all are essential. We looked at scheduling, managing concurrency, managing memory, managing devices, file systems and user interface. Now before I go, when we talk about the user interface, what we're used to now is called a GUI, a graphical user interface. That's the icons which we see on the desktop, so when we use our when we use our mouse, we click on it, it's going to do something. In previous times, and it's still around to now, we can still use a command line, so where actually we type in instructions for the computer to actually follow. So there we have our operating system. In the next video, we will be looking at other types of software. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.